Open your hearts and welcome. During the last 2.5 years, a number of our priests participated in the Good Leaders, Good Shepherds program, and I participated in the bishop's version of that program. In the most recent session for bishops, they emphasized identifying the biggest priorities for our dioceses over the next 18 months, and then devising a single, clear, unifying message, a sort of rallying cry that will help us move in a focused way to the accomplishment of these goals, these priorities. And so what is my rallying cry for the next 18 months? Open your hearts and welcome. Changes are headed our way, and our openness to growth will enable us to embrace with loving hearts the blessings that the Lord is working among us today. With this video, I will discuss two such blessings: the new English translation of the Roman Missal, which we will begin to use starting the first Sunday of Advent this year, and the implementation of training in natural family planning as a required component of marriage preparation in our diocese beginning in 2012. In my second video, I will discuss two further aspects of the ongoing growth of our church. There are many newcomers in our midst, and fourth, we have twice as many seminarians as 10 years ago. The Lord has many blessings in store for us this coming year. Open your hearts and welcome. Open your hearts to welcome the new Roman Missal, which is a more formal, literal translation from the Latin than the more colloquial translation we are using presently, and as such is similar in some respects to the first English translation we used following Vatican II. This new translation uses an elevated, more nuanced vocabulary, often taken directly from the Scriptures. The prayers said by the priests will be much richer and a little harder to follow, because the theological precision of the Latin original will once again be rendered fully in English. This will take some getting used to, especially as we relearn some of the responses of the congregation during Mass. For instance, we will now be responding, "and with your spirit," a direct translation of the Latin "et cum spiritu tuo," instead of our present more informal "and also with you." Some of the most jarring changes will be the result of returning to our former practice of using exact quotations from Scripture. For instance, in consecrating the precious blood, the priest presently says, "It will be shed for you and for all, so that sins may be forgiven." But if you read the account of the Last Supper in the Gospels, what Jesus actually says is that it will be shed on behalf of many, as opposed to few, for sure, but also as opposed to a blanket free pass for those who die in a state of mortal sin. Another example of returning to our former practice of quoting Scripture will be just before communion, when we will now say the exact words of the centurion who asked Jesus to heal his servant: "Lord, I am not worthy that you should enter under my roof," instead of our present more colloquial, "Lord, I am not worthy to receive you." This new translation also reflects more accurately the fuller acknowledgement of personal sin contained in the Latin original, and restores the striking of our chests during the Confiteor, as we say, "Through my fault, through my fault, through my most grievous fault." This had been omitted in our present English translation, though significantly not in the translations into Spanish or other languages. Now we will be saying exactly the same prayers as are being said in every other language. People using missalettes with English and Spanish on facing pages will be able to verify this, because starting November 27th, the prayers in both languages will line up closely, which they don't do at present. One thing that will help us to open our hearts to welcome this new translation will be for us to use this time of change as an opportunity to learn more about the liturgy in general. For this reason, I ask that every parish in our diocese offer an adult education course in liturgy this fall to help us deepen our understanding of the Mass and lead us to a more active and fruitful celebration of the liturgy. It is easier to welcome change when we understand why. Open your hearts and welcome also to natural family planning, which will now become a required part of marriage preparation in our diocese. Marriage in the United States is in a state of crisis. 50% of marriages end in divorce, and our society suffers the consequences, especially our children. We have been trying to address this problem with well-designed marriage preparation programs, but the results of our efforts have been disappointing. Catholic marriages still end in divorce at about the same rate as those in the rest of society. One component of our present marriage preparation program is a brief introduction to natural family planning, the use of which is the single greatest predictor of marital success today. Unfortunately, very few couples actually take the next step and avail themselves of the training necessary to use natural family planning in their own marriages, despite the fact that natural family planning training is available at 17 locations in Arkansas. Last fall, our Presbyteral Council recommended to me a plan to make natural family planning training a required component of marriage preparation for couples of childbearing years, effective January 1st, 2012, which I'm announcing today. Our Office of Family Life has recruited and trained additional teaching couples in English and in Spanish so that natural family planning training will be readily available in all 8 deaneries of our diocese. Instructors and class schedules are available through the Family Life Office and our diocesan website. All of my 4 priorities for the diocese for the next 18 months are also highlighted in the recent issue of the Arkansas Catholic. In addition to the regular subscribers, all registered households should have received the special bilingual issue in the mail in the past couple of days. I encourage you to read this issue, subscribe if you are not already, and ask others to do the same. Our award-winning newspaper is my primary way of communicating to you about the new and exciting projects happening in the church in Arkansas. Open your hearts and welcome. Changes are headed our way, and our openness to growth will enable us to embrace with loving hearts the blessings that the Lord is working among us today, including the new Roman Missal and training in natural family planning as a component of marriage preparation. In these and in many other ways, the Lord has blessings in store for us this coming year. Open your hearts and welcome.